Welcome everyone to another Thursday evening live stream. Bitcoin has been quite volatile lately, especially today, so I want to take a look at a few different time frames to see what the heck is going on. As always, I'm going to start here zoomed out on the weekly chart just to get a feel for the overall market, and I'll work my way into the DGen time frames after that. Look at my current position, why I've taken partial profits and that sort of thing, but I'll get into that in a few minutes. I'm going to look at some levels I'm watching, some of my favorite indicators and strategies, looking at a bunch of Fibonacci's the way I like to use them and that sort of thing. So with that being said, let's take a look at my weekly chart here. I was actually mentioning the last two weekly streams, I think it was, that we did have this upward sloping support line. And look how beautiful we ended up testing that. We got a perfect dump to that level, the lowest that this whole range here has got to, respected a third touch point of this white trend line here. Now, trend lines on their own, I mean, take it or leave it. I know not everybody likes that. I map them out as well. Generally speaking, I'm not taking many trades off of trend lines, other than, you know, there is certain things I look for, like swing fail patterns and that sort of thing, if the trend line I feel like is valid or accurate. But either way, it is something I like to look for, to see us finding that bit of support there, because one thing that, I mean, a lot of you guys will remember this, is I was talking about a very good possibility that we end up dropping back down to this green box, and I still think that's absolutely a possibility, and that's from like 53 down towards 50K, just based off this structure back here, because this green box is still, and I know this is getting repetitive for a lot of you, but this is still the higher low on the trend as far as I'm watching it. I suppose if you're going just off of candle body closes, and this is something to consider here, is you can see that we actually ended up breaking above this level. This is really micro analyzing, you guys, just going candle by candle. But I think it is important, because when we're looking at candle bodies closes like this, you can see we closed above this candle here, and that brings the higher low technically of the candle bodies up to this level here. So something we have to watch for is that very well may be flipping into resistance right now. That on its own, I don't know how much credit I want to give that at this point. I'm still saying that, you know, since we had these wicks above these levels, you know, we never actually closed above these wicks. So take it for what it is. It's just a little bit messy in this zone in general. So I am still watching this as the important level that we got to hold, that kind of that 53 to 50K level. So until that breaks, I'm going to be very bullish on this market cycle. There was people, you know, as we were dropping down, even this week, I think it was earlier in the week, we were kind of testing down into this candle. People were claiming that the bull market was over, it's bear market on. Like, guys, what about this chart on a weekly time frame looks bearish? I don't know why so many people flip sentiment so well. Actually, I know exactly why people flip their opinion so quick. It's because people in crypto expect immediate results, and the fact that we're just testing all-time highs rather than blasting through, people are losing faith in the market. And I remember that same thing happening down here for these 5 weeks that we traded at previous all-time highs. It's the same thing. It's just happening, you know, it's taking a little bit longer. It's absolutely possible we end up nuking, but it just seems strange to me. The fact that, you know, typically speaking, bears love to just nuke the market a lot faster than bulls. I believe typically bearish movements are around 3 times faster than bullish movements. So the fact that we're just tapping away at resistance here rather than just testing it and absolutely nuking from there, I don't know. I think it speaks volumes for the bulls. I think the bears are very hesitant on pulling the trigger right now. And obviously the bulls are a little bit hesitant as well, but we're just consolidating at that all-time high resistance. So I really don't see any reason why we should be bearish at this point. I know a lot of people have immediately switched back to $200,000 targets and all that sort of stuff. It's crazy what a couple hours can do in crypto Twitter. But yeah, this looks great to me. Like I said, the fact that we never got back down to that higher low structure, we found that diagonal support instead. So this was actually being front run. I love to see that. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to pull a fib here. I don't think that is a Stuber fib. Very close to the 786 actually. So, you know, just another reason it actually got front run a little bit. but we got very close to that level. So that's exactly what I'd expect out of a bullish trend, testing that 786 and taking off from there. On top of that, look what we have here. Yes, we are potentially testing that resistance, but look what happened right here. We actually, the market tried to sell off here, and our next week, which was last week here, closed a bullish engulfing weekly candle as we're testing near that all-time high level. I don't know, does that scream bearish to anybody? Because it doesn't for me. It just seems like there's still a lot of bullish pressure here, and the bears aren't able to send the price lower. If structure changes, so does my tune, guys. I am not sitting here saying that we are going to $100,000 from here. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that as it stands right now, I really see no reason to be bearish. I'm going to be bullish until proven otherwise. If we lose this support line, flip it into resistance, yeah, I absolutely think that we end up testing lower prices. But Bitcoin has done such a great job of building support along the way that I think it's going to be short-lived. I really don't think we're near the end of a market cycle. I see no reason why we wouldn't see some sort of price discovery before that happens, but anything can happen. This is the crypto space. But yeah, as far as the weekly goes, actually another thing that I'm just noticing right now that's interesting, speaking of going just off kind of candle body closes here, you can see that here's one of those times where, hey, we had our closes here. We had closes slightly higher. When we ended up losing that bit of structure there, actually, I'm going to move this down a little bit just to have it in line with the bottom of this bounce zone. Of the bodies anyways. You can see that after we ended up dropping that, we kind of came back up to those levels, but just drop it again and just absolutely nuked. Same thing happened here at the very end of the last bull market. You can see that we did the exact same sort of thing here, you guys. We had this bit of structure right here that formed. Yes, this is micro analyzing every candle. But yes, we had candle bodies closing here and we ended up breaking above that. We end up closing candle bodies way up here. That gives us this little support box here. Look what happens when we drop that. That was the end of the bull market. Now what is interesting is quite often when you reclaim those levels, you really see some sparks fly. And just look at where we ended up reclaiming very recently here. Is that same structure point. You can see that's right where our weekly candle bodies are closing. Yes, wicking into it, just finding beautiful support. So I think there is a lot to be said about this level that we're currently finding support at. Everyone's so focused on, hey, we're getting rejected at resistance. Well, I shouldn't say nobody. There's a lot of moon boys out there, but it just feels like people are so quick to flip bearish because we're testing resistance levels, but not too many people focusing on these big support levels in an uptrend. Just to bring up some indicators here. You can see we still have W's trending to the upside. That's always been one of my favorite things to look for in a trend. As well, this trend collection indicator, we still have this beautiful pink buy trend here, and it's actually lining up still. I know it's been like this for a few weeks now, but it's been lining up with my green support box here for weeks, and it's beautiful just to have that little bit of confluence, right? So, and just again, if we end up dropping this white diagonal support, because it is just a diagonal support after all, just goes to show that this trend does have a lot of support built up beneath us, and the indicators are agreeing with that. So beautiful to see there. Let's actually, I want to zoom into, let's check out the 4 hour. Hopefully this doesn't get too cluttered here. But I was actually warning in the Bitcoin chat as well about another diagonal trend line ahead of time. This was, I can't remember, it was earlier in the week, I think. But I was just looking for some sort of a resistance diagonal line. Again, it is just a diagonal, but again, I kind of look for swing fails and that sort of thing when I am looking for diagonal trend lines. So if I just go for very accurate touch points here, going right to the wicks and then connecting to the second wick here, just looking for an extension of where we might see a third rejection. You can see that we ended up testing that level, but we got above it, but we only had 2 touch points. And that's another thing I'm very vocal about in my channel, in my streams, is that when I do look for trend lines, and especially when playing breakouts, I need at least 3 touch points on a valid trend line before a breakout, and this is a perfect reason why. You know, we got that candle body close above, but we only had 2 touch points, and we very quickly just ended up dropping back down below it. On top of that, we had this reversal warning here, just a little bit of confluence there. And as well, I had also pointed out here, this is a little cheat code that I like to do. I got this from Lord Smallyo. But just looking at structure breaks, right? Kind of where this range started, here was our support. We end up losing that. So the fact that structure did break to the downside, that's where I want to start looking for pulling Fibonacci's to look for one of my Stuber fibs, the 786, 886 pocket, because we did lose structure. But the price does not have to immediately nuke, right? When we see that kind of behavior where we drop a level, so often after that level is swept, we end up getting some sort of a bounce, or on the opposite direction, obviously some sort of a correction, whatever. But that's not all too uncommon. So what I look for then is a bounce to those Fibonacci's, just so I bring myself up closer to those invalidations where structure would change the other way again. But I like to have wicks on when I choose those levels. So just as a little bit of confluence, I was looking at Fibonacci's pulling from the top of this swing down to where we had currently bottomed out. And look at that. That also lined up beautifully in the 886 or 786, 886 pocket. Filled it basically perfectly, reversal warning and everything. I was pointing that out last week, I believe it was actually. That mixed with this sort of diagonal trend line, that's where I'm taking it more serious, right? The trend line on its own, I'm not blind shorting into it. I would never blind short into a trend line. That's very dangerous. I am interested in them if they end up having a fake out like that, and I'm interested in them if they have that added confluence of indicators lining up with it, Fibonacci's lining up with it. It was just kind of a beautiful setup there. So I ended up in a short earlier today, or I think I took it yesterday actually, based on some smaller time frame structure. But like I was telling you guys right before I started this stream, I actually ended up closing my short position, and I'll go into why right now. You can see it was actually beautiful from up here, or maybe it was back here. I can't remember where when they're zooming into the 5 minute, but either way, that was my entry price. And yeah, basically we came all the way down. I was talking about this yesterday, that I thought there was a good chance. Let me get the wicks back on so these fibs make sense. I'm going to erase this other fib just to clean things up a little bit. And basically I had my fib pulled from down here to up here. And as we were, as we were starting to lose this structure here, you can see it more if I go something like this. You can see we had this kind of an order block here. After we end up breaking that structure, that's where it was just looking to me like, hey, we're probably going to end up targeting down towards the 786, 886 fib, because those are those targets that I absolutely love looking for. You guys see me posting examples of them all the time in the Discord there. So this is no different. I mean, I know typically I'm trading a 5 minute and stuff like that, but on the 1 hour, it's very much the same, right? I mean, if you're losing this important level here, losing this structure, losing the, losing this structure here right at the 0.5 fib, and we had this support here, and we just have this big gap of untested price action, basically. I just thought it made a lot of sense that we would end up targeting this $67,000 target, and we did today, so that just ended up playing out beautifully. But like I said, I am not in that short anymore. I'm going to zoom into the 5 minute here. Since we pulled into my 786, 886 fib pocket here, I ended up closing most of my position. And then also with the trend dynamic here, we got this double reversal warning signal down here, trending to the upside as well. So they're shifting directions. That's something I love to look for. So that was just some added confluence that, I was just willing to take a bit of a hedge long at that point. I actually took the hedge long before this because I was just basically laddering in at the fibs. And then I got that reversal warning signal, which just gave me a little confidence in my position. But yeah, basically after we ended up breaking above this level, I ended up closing the rest of my short. Because here we had a low, lower low. That's our lower high on the trend. We ended up closing candles above that. Yeah, sure, it's possible we end up testing back down to these levels. And, you know, we could just absolutely nuke from here. But I was comfortable closing the rest of my position there. And just seeing what happens with my long position here. Just going to get rid of the indicators here. I did close a quarter of my long position from down here already. You'll notice I have this green circle here. My reasoning for that was just basically that we got this reversal warning. Not to say that the price has to reverse here, because I'm expecting them to start trending to the upside. But I just, you know, I like to pay myself quickly on at least part of my position, because that way, even if I'm wrong, even if we haven't bottomed out here, I'm still making money at this point, because I did close a quarter of my position and my stop loss is at break even now. You know, if we get some sort of, you know, we come down, stops me out, and we find support, well, so be it. I can always find another position. But just as it is right now, I'm a little sidetracked with you guys and just doing other things, getting ready for my trip and that sort of stuff, that I want my stop loss at break even just so that I can relax a little bit. But that's why I took a little bit. So just using the indicators to not only for, you know, confidence in entries, but also for taking profit, reducing risk, whatever, right? When we ended up getting this little bounce here, I just want to show this little example of structure here of how we could have expected to retest down at these lows at least one more time. I'm just going to get rid of the indicators just so it's easier to see. I'm also going to get rid of this just to really clean things up. This is actually interesting here. I was talking about reclaiming levels. So here is one of those times we just had, this is very micro analyzing, you guys. This is just, I just want to take a quick look at market structure here. You know, we set this high, we end up breaking it. Higher high, that's a higher low. Higher high, that's a higher low. This is kind of where our order block was, because this is where we had our reversal just before getting our last higher high here. So I outlined that box in green. Again, with no wicks, that's just candle body there. And so basically we lost this lower, or this higher low, and it was just assumed that we were going to come back down and test, you know, the bottom of the range that it was currently in. No surprise to see another dump there, which ended up filling that 1 hour Stuber pocket absolutely perfectly. So love to see it. But look what happens when we reclaim this level, right? As soon, I'm really going to zoom in to make sure I have this as accurate as possible. I can actually move this very slightly. See how I have that outlined on this last red candle body here? Look what happens when we reclaim that level. That's where we just continued our rally to the upside, right? Where we ended up losing our higher low of this very micro trend here. Look where we end up finding support at that same level, because we reclaimed it. It's holding as beautiful support so far. Not to say that it has to, obviously. It can still let go. We can test down towards these lower levels. Something I'd be watching for, in fact, if we do end up sending it a little bit lower, I'd start watching for fibs, something like this. I think it would make a lot of sense to test these fibs down here once again. And I'll be considering taking another entry if we do end up coming back down to those levels. But as it stands right now, the market is just slowly trending to the upside here. Let me just get rid of this. Actually, yeah, so I'm not actually going to consider this a loss of structure, because this wasn't actually a higher low, right? It actually was just in line with the lower high of this trend. This is basically a double top here, so to break out above that, I'm not willing to consider this a total loss of structure. If we end up losing this again, then yeah, I think we target those lower levels. But yeah, where can we expect? Let's just turn these indicators back on. I like to have the wicks on when I'm looking for fib pulls and that sort of thing. Actually, something that's interesting, something that I can see at a very quick glance here. You know, if we did play this, there was actually a setup here. I can see it right now, because like I said many times, I'm getting so autistic about seeing these Stuber fibs. Just when I turned on the wicks there, I see a Stuber fib setup. So here's where, you know, we have high, higher low, higher low. We end up dropping that. That's where, like I was saying, sometimes when you sweep that low, that you end up getting some sort of a pullback, right? Let's turn on our wicks and take a Fibonacci pull from the top here of this wick down to the bottom of this wick. Where did we end up getting rejected? Bang on the 786. It's like magic. And that's just, at a quick glance, I can tell you now, I can spot those levels like that. Just looking back like this, I mean, it's just, the more you see them, you just can't unsee them. They're showing up absolutely everywhere. So I love using the 786 for Fibonacci's like that. I just find that, you know, when you see a structure break followed by a pullback to those fib pockets, it's so often a nice entry. Obviously not financial advice. You do what works for you. There's certain things that I look for with my fibs like that. I'm not just pulling from random points. I have an understanding of the market structure breaks before looking for those fib pulls and that sort of thing. But that's just one of my favorite setups there. Again, I never took that short. I'm still just in this long from this blue dotted line. I'll actually get rid of my other short position because, like I said, I ended up taking profits on that. And we're going to see what happens. Let me get this 1 hour fib back up just so that I don't forget about it. How many of you guys use Fibonacci's religiously like I do? Or do you focus mostly on just structure? Do you guys focus on trend lines, the indicators? What's some of your favorite trading strategies? Actually, another thing I want to point out, just as far as, you know, those levels flipping. So let's just say, again, very micro analyzing here, but looking at high, higher high. Here's our higher low, so we can take that red box as potential support. And look where we're trying to find support right now. Not saying it has to. That's very micro analyzing, but it just goes to show you how well this type of structure, just kind of how swings in general, how the structure is such a valuable thing to understand. I know Smallyo has done plenty of videos explaining it, and he actually explains it far better than I do. That man understands in great detail how to point out swings and how to explain them. So I highly recommend looking at his videos as well in the academy. But yeah, it's crazy how often these levels also line up with the Stuber fibs, for example. Let's just go, I don't know for sure, but it looks very close. Let's just say, you know, since we had this break to the upside, where did we end up pulling back to? Bang on the 786. You can't make this shit up. Yeah, Thump, I've been seeing you using that stablecoin indicator. I still haven't got around to getting super comfortable with it like you've been pointing out. But that looks very interesting too. I do actually plan on adding that one to my arsenal of tools here. It's just, once you come up with strategies that you really get comfortable with, it's hard to start trying and experimenting with other things, right? Because when you get something you're comfortable with and it's profitable, it's pretty hard to switch things up. Yeah, let's get the indicators back up though. Something that would make me take a little bit more profits on my position too, on my long here, is if we get some sort of lower high W come into play. I would take that into consideration that, hey, just using the indicators as risk management, just as a little bit of confluence for risk management, I would just think that, hey, maybe the trend is shifting back to the downside. I would definitely be considering, well, no, I would definitely be closing more of my position. I'd probably close another quarter, so I'd only have half my position from running down here in that case. But as it stands, let's check out the trend. Let's check out the auto charting tools actually. See, that's interesting. On the 5 minute, we still have a series of lower lows, lower highs. And actually, that's another thing. When you're learning how to set Fibonacci's and stuff like that, I find that indicator can be very helpful. Like I said, I pointed out that Stuber fib from over here. And same thing, if you pulled it from that lower high structure there, it would have nailed this, right? It never quite hit my second TP, but it did hit TP1. And yes, it's a small range, but that's what it is, right? If you're pulling a small Fibonacci, then it's a small range. That's all there is to it. Your take profits and your stop losses and everything is adjusted accordingly. Generally, if it's a smaller range, all those numbers are closer together, right? But yeah, that absolutely played out. And as well, like I said, if we do end up coming back down, that I would be looking for some sort of a position in that Fibonacci pocket. And it just so happens to line up on a lower low signal from the indicator as well, right? Notice it never got one at this one, and it would have failed. Just out of curiosity, I want to see this one. I want to see if any of these bounces would have played out. Yeah, maybe. If you front run it. Usually I do front run the Fibonacci's both on my entries as well as my take profits. My stop loss is the opposite. It's actually further away than my invalidation fib. But I just like to give myself that little bit of wiggle room, right? In case it's, nothing's worse than getting super close to your target, but not quite getting it and then reversing or something like that. So it's hard to say if I would have actually got in some kind of a position here if I was looking for a long. But like I said, I was bearish. I was shooting for 67K. And since we got that and even a little deeper, that's where I have to consider that, hey, maybe things, I reach my target. Maybe things are about to reverse. And that's where getting into this hedge turned into my regular position now. Also, how many of you guys like hedging positions? Is that something you're all comfortable with? Obviously, there's a correct way and a wrong way to do it. A lot of people just figure, hey, I'm going to open up a long and a short. That way one of them's going to be right. Technically, you might lose on both of those. That's not the proper way to hedge. When I say hedge, I mean like, hey, I'm getting in a short near the top of the range and I'm getting in a long near the bottom of a range, right? Trying to focus on structure now, using fibs for confluence. Absolutely. The thing is, at the end of the day, they're like any indicator, anything. In my opinion, structure takes the cake. Structure is by far the most important thing when you're looking at charts. When you can start understanding, hey, structure is broken. When you can get, and there's sometimes where I overlook structure or I don't notice a proper break, or I think there's a break, but then I zoom out a little bit and I see I fucked something up. Like it happens to me too. But understanding structure and getting better and better at recognizing breaks and reclaims and invalidations and that sort of thing. It's such a powerful thing that no indicator, I mean, I shouldn't say no indicator, but just as far as I'm concerned, it's more important to have a basic understanding of structure than it is to have any indicator. Indicators are good for confluence. Indicators are good for, I like to use them to second guess myself, right? Like if I'm feeling FOMO-y and the indicators are disagreeing, then hey, maybe it's time to take a step back and reconsider, zoom out, do whatever I have to do to readjust or reconsider. And sometimes, sometimes I feel, hey, there's a reason why it's saying this. And other times, no, you know what, my structure at the end of the day says this. And yeah, having the indicator confluence, that's kind of where I start, adjusting position size. If I have things adding into the confluence, hey, I have this structure, I have this strategy with the indicators lining up. Hey, this position's going to be a little bit heavier than the last one, that sort of thing. But Skelpmaster, I still haven't played around with that indicator very much. I've liked the odd time I've brought it up, and I like what I see. I just haven't personally developed a strategy with it yet, and I really like to do that. To me, using an indicator is more than relying on the indicator itself, but coming up with strategies that you start to notice repeating patterns in them, just like with structure, right? Some of the Academy videos stop and start on you all the time. That's weird. I haven't heard of that happening to anyone else. Sorry, just catching up on some messages here. Can I share how I decide to place my TP? Depending on the strategy I'm using, I guess, and what has led me to take a position. When I am looking for Fibonacci's, for example, my Fibonacci's, for example, this is how I have this one pulled. I'm just going to get rid of any drawings that I can to clean things up here. So when I'm entering a position on my Stuber fibs, something like this, my targets are these other fibs that I have outlined, and I basically have those on the chart so that I remember to take profits. I should actually make them yellow so they stand out more. But when I'm entering based on Fibonacci's like this, I like to take profit at the 0.5 and the 0.214 fibs. The reason for a 0.214, because that probably sounds very random. The 0.5 is obvious. It's the middle of this entire range that I pulled. Quite often, things end up getting some sort of a reaction at the halfway point of a range, just like it did here. TP2, this 214, that's actually basically the opposite of a 786, right? If I'm looking at entering positions on a 786, it's because it's a very strong level in theory. And that's basically the opposite of a 214. If I was to pull a Fibonacci from the swing high to swing low, so I'm looking for rejection fibs rather than support fibs, you can see that 214 just front runs the 786 a little bit. So that's my idea with that fib. Again, I front run the levels very slightly, just because so often you'll get so close to those levels and not quite hit it. So I do front run them generally. That's how I like to take profits on a more structured level when I'm in a position. The more YOLO approach when I'm actively day trading is kind of like what I was talking about earlier. What led me to close a quarter of this long position was just because the indicator gave a reversal warning. Yes, even though I think that they are starting to trend to the upside, I think it's very possible we just end up setting a higher one next. But just the fact that this is a reversal warning, it's just reason to downsize my position, right? I am personally more of a scalper, so I am more comfortable getting in and out of trades than I am leaving them on the table. Because fuckery happens, and I'm just, it's funny, most people would rather set it and forget it kind of a trade, more swing trading type of thing. I'm personally very uncomfortable with positions open. I like to get in and at least start downsizing quickly. So usually I'm very quick to take a quarter to half of my position off the table, whether I'm in a small profit, a big profit, at break even at a small loss. If I see reasons to start downsizing my position, I like downsizing the first half very quickly. And then from there, I hope to catch a runner, right? I'm not banking on a home run trade because I am more of a scalper. But, I never close my full position at the first couple take profits just in case that position does gain some momentum for whatever reason. Have I considered automating my Stuber fib strategy? I absolutely have had that go through my head almost every day, but I have no idea how to do that kind of thing. I am not a techie guy. I draw colorful shapes and I trade them. I'm definitely not one setting up bots or any. I haven't even set up like a copy trading bot. I haven't done any of that, to be honest. But I would love to automate it, but it would be hard because the way I look for fibs isn't just based off you know, random pivot points, right? Like I need those structure breaks and stuff. I'm sure there's ways to automate it. I just have no idea how to go about that, but I would love to try that. I would love to just have, you know, every little 1 minute Stuber setup taken, whether it wins or loses, just take them all and see what happens. I would love to do that. What else do we have going on? This is the 5 minute. Is there... See, this is nice to see. Actually, even as far as getting into like a long right now, you could technically, I mean, again, gotta say it, not financial advice. But if you are looking for long positions or any reason to be in a long, you know, on this little downtrend that we just had, and again, guys, this is obviously looking at scalping. This is not looking at a swing trade at this point. Unless you're lower leverage and you do understand that, you know, we can fall all the way back down towards, you know, the bottom of the range, really. But as far as scalping goes, you know, we had this low here, lower low, that's our lower high, and we obviously broke that level, and then we set another, or actually, did this close above? Yes. So technically we did get the close above this. Oh, God. Sorry about that. Got the close above this body here, so technically we do have a higher low at this level. Again, this is very micro analyzing. And where would the wicks go? But yeah, basically support should be down here. If we end up getting a candle body closing below this higher low, then that changes, right? That just changes the swing again. Hopefully that makes sense. Grab some beautiful entries on render and near. Nice, nice. I have a little bag of near. Nothing crazy, but that is one of my altcoin holdings. And yeah, every time there's a big dip, it seems like near recovers very well. Very well. As far as some meme coins, I know I pointed this one out in my last stream. 4-hour chart, this is Rocky, has a very small market cap. One thing that I love about this chart is we started setting higher buy signals with the trend collection indicator. We did have trending W's to the upside. That has shifted. We got a sell signal here, so we're seeing a bit of a pullback. But look how quickly the candles are flipping to a bright green color. I have them inverted so that it does that. On the way down, they flip green. Looking, I don't know, we're coming back down towards the floor level. So as long, I'd be interested to see if we get another higher buy signal, actually. You know, even though we have a sell signal here, it is a higher sell signal. So I would now love to see a higher buy signal come into play if we can flip this resistance into support. Because guys, at the end of the day, like I was talking about, indicators are great, but you kind of also need to come up with your own strategies with indicators. One thing that I really love using indicators for is helping me spot a trend. And like I said, whether that's W's trending higher, 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 the buy signals trending to the upside, the core trend even, just seeing like what levels it ends up flipping, right? Let me just erase a couple things here just to clear things up. You know, back here, we flipped green. We flipped green next time a little bit higher. We flipped green next time a little bit higher. You know, I'm hoping that we end up flipping this to green once again a little bit higher. So that's just a way I really like to use basically any indicator, just more so helping me point out the trend, which way the signals are trending rather than each signal individually itself, right? Yeah, how's Bitcoin looking? Yeah, see, you know, we break that structure and we start climbing to the upside here. Something to consider is we still obviously have that potential Stuber. I give most credit to these kinds of setups the first time, so that's why they're hard to catch a lot of the times. You know, if you start taking it at these levels, but it's already been tested once or twice, then in my opinion, the probability just goes down a little bit. I always find that so often you get that first test advantage where whether the trend is going to continue or not, there's some sort of a reaction at those fibs where, you know, that's where you start to hit your first one, hopefully two targets really quickly, right? So the fact that we've already tested that once, I don't know if it's going to shut us down again. It's just something to be aware of. But as it stands right now, I mean, structure on this little swing is to the upside again. Let me take a look at near. W's are still trending to the upside. Buy signals are still trending to the upside. This is on the 4 hour. We are losing this buy trend, but even if it flips to a sell signal, it is technically a higher sell signal, right? So everything does look like it's trending to the upside. What can we see here? Yeah, obviously we had our high, higher low. We end up dropping that. I'm just curious, did that end up testing it? Yes, it did. 786. See, it's crazy. We see that structure break. You get a bounce to the 786 or retrace on the opposite direction. Either way, so often you see that respected. That's why I talk about them all the time. I think that's such a useful tool when looking for entries. It's just, it's actually unbelievable how well that fib gets respected all the time. There is a 1500 BTC sell order near that local top of my 100%. You mean up here? I assume that's what you're talking about. Yeah, interesting. I don't have trading light or anything like that. I guess I could bring, I've actually don't have the liquidity levels loaded. I haven't looked at that tool much either. I keep my charting fairly simple, basically structure, fibs, and which way things are trending. But yeah, I could see there definitely being, we almost had a bit of a failed break here, right? If we just make some sort of a resistance box here right to the tops of the wicks of this range. Notice that we never did get a close above that level, right? We ended up testing right into it, closing below it, just getting that that harsh rejection. The only reason why I don't know if that will necessarily hold is because technically this was not the lower high of the trend, because, you know, after we set that low, lower high, low, or whatever, barely moves there, but we did have a lower low after that, making this the lower high. That was the change in structure, right? After we broke that level, you can see that, well, yeah, we ended up basically pulling back down to that 786 one more time and then taking off from there. So I have a feeling, and apparently I've been watching the chat a little bit, there's been a lot of fuckery in the order books. There's been, it seems like there's some people manipulating the market out there, trying to draw in liquidity and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised that if we test into this level and those orders start getting chewed through, I wouldn't be surprised if they just totally remove that order and let the price do its thing from there. Would not surprise me at all. Zeus, what time? Oh, that's a 4 hour chart on near you're looking at. Yeah, same as me. Yeah, you're looking at a bit of a channel, it looks like. I like to use wicks when I look for, let's go something like here. When I look for trend lines, I like exact touch points. Actually, that was beautiful right there. Just a little freestyle in here. Holy smokes. Yeah. I find so often that, you know, exact wicks end up predicting where a third touch point is going to be. And again, I never blind short into trend lines. However, if I zoomed into, let's say, a 5-minute chart and I saw we were getting rejected at that level, since I'm watching it on the 4-hour, that's where I'd be more likely to enter a short on that kind of a thing. Same goes for the long on this side of things. I'd be more so zooming into a shorter time frame to see how it's reacting when it gets near that trend line. But that's a beautiful channel. Very well respected. Oh yeah, in your screenshot there, I see the the orders up there. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. Maybe we will top out for Bitcoin up there. Hard to say. It's crazy, hey? Once you start to see these structure levels and how it works, like if this was further down here, for example, I wouldn't have taken it all too seriously. But the fact that we ended up breaking this high here and then breaking another high, that's where we get to bring the higher low up that much, right? Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. How to find the swing areas again? Do you mean with the actual candle closes? Hey, not just the higher highs, higher lows? So basically, for finding swing areas, I'm finding, let's say, low, lower, low. And if I'm looking for a lower high, that would be basically, or let's say when looking for the reversal of this downtrend, for example, right? We obviously have this breakdown here. We end up seeing some sort of a bounce. So here we have a lower low. When we end up getting another close below that level, that's where we actually have a lower low. The lower high of the trend is then the highest point between those two, right? So that's where I would actually end up using basically this whole candle here. Since this was the upward move that got reversed here, I'm selecting the green candle here, and I'm mapping out something like so. At the end of the day, you don't even need to know that. Just on a more basic level, let's just say the highest point between the two, right? And I'm going candle bodies. I got rid of the wicks just so it's easier to see when those actual closes are happening, because wicks come and go. Wicks don't matter all that much. I like using them when looking for Fibonacci pulls and trend lines and that sort of thing. But as far as actual structure, the closes are so much more important. So again, we have a low, lower low because we closed below. Highest point between the two would be our lower high. You can see we struggled there for a little bit, but then we ended up breaking above that level. So we've actually invalidated this lower high here. So now technically this should be trending to the upside because we got our high above that. However, something to consider is that we could pull all the way back to the start of this move, right? I think you understand, or here, just to make this clear, I'm going to say that's our bullish signal, right? I'm going to make it green because that's our bullish signal. This was our bearish signal, which got invalidated with the bullish one. Hopefully that kind of makes sense for you. So the thing is, after breaking that lower high structure here, we haven't set another higher high. We did break that level, but we haven't set a new higher high yet. So what's the lowest point between our lower high and the one that invalidated it? Technically, the lowest point between the two is way down here. So that's where you're actually pulling your fib from, right? So that's where I'm looking at the swing very possibly could come back down towards these fib levels. And actually, sorry, I like to turn on the wicks when I'm pulling fibs. So it'd actually be something like so. If now at this point we end up getting a close above this high, so we set a higher high, then our lowest point between the two would be here. So we'd actually be bumping up the low. This would actually be a confirmed higher low. Right now we're assuming that's a higher low, but it's not confirmed until we actually break above this structure again. So that would bring the structure up quite a bit, and then we could end up pulling Fibonacci's from new places, right? Basically chasing the price as it creates ranges. But as it goes right now, I mean, we could drop all the way back down here and that would be totally normal. And then obviously there's ranges in ranges, right? Like right now, obviously there's this much smaller range playing out. Let's say right now, as far as this swing goes, here's our little bit of a range, in which case this was our lower high. Let's just say this whole range here, right? This was our lower high because we had this low, lower low. That's our lower high. We broke it, creating, that's our invalidation. And then we ended up closing above and going higher. So therefore we have a higher high, and that brings our higher low up. You follow? Does that kind of make sense? So if we end up closing candle bodies below this level, that means we lose our higher low structure and we start trending down again. And at that point, I think that's where it makes sense that we would actually test down here. I probably wouldn't, I don't know, I'm personally not interested in shorting right now. Maybe that's a dumb idea, but I myself, I'm just riding out my long for now, basically. Let me know too in the Discord chats at any time, like if you're unsure or if you want to privately message me, like send me a picture of how you're looking at structure and see if I'm looking at it the same or whatever. Obviously everyone has their own way of looking at things too. Like you know, we could have the exact same charts, the same trend lines, indicators, everything, and we would trade the markets completely different. So make sure before you put any theories into practice, you do a little bit of back testing, just to kind of understand your probabilities of whether it's working out the way you think it's going to or anything like that. Ooh, lower high W looks like it's coming into play. If that does print in 30 seconds here, I'm actually going to sell another quarter of my position, so I'll only have half running in that case. We'll see what happens on candle close though. Never know what'll happen in 13 seconds in the crypto market here. But I have my order ready. Basically, I am going to close a quarter of that. Yep, so I am closing another quarter of my position, so I only have half my position running now from this blue dotted line down here. Just a way, you know, just since we have a perfect live example right now, I'm not interested in taking a short right now, but this is just a bit of a warning that things might be reversing here. So I'm just using the indicators as not only entries, but also risk management, right? Just making sure I pay myself a little bit more, downsizing my position, that sort of thing. Because right now we have mixed signals. Honestly, I like it when things all kind of line up the same direction, but the fact that the bearish ones are sloping down, the bullish ones are sloping up, there's kind of mixed signals right now. I like it when everything's kind of going the same direction. Same with, like, even though these are sloping to the downside, we technically have a buy signal. Yes, it is a much lower buy signal, so those are trending down. There's just a, when you try to start over analyzing indicators, I mean, there's so often that they're not lining up. So that's where, understanding market structure, I think, is just so much more important. But as far as, risk management, taking profits and all that sort of thing, I always like to check stuff like that. I'm actually, I gotta get this, I gotta stop fidgeting and keep this box here. Really curious to see if we'll end up flipping this into support. I'm actually planning on taking off fairly soon, you guys, but I am just gonna babysit this a little bit longer just to see what happens with this box, see if we get any sort of reaction off of it while I'm live with you guys here. Sorry, there was another coin that was mentioned earlier. I forgot I was going to look at. EDU. Oh. USDT.P. Oh, it might be too late. I just realized that you were talking about a scalp. Holy smokes. So this thing just did 100%, hey? Yeah, 107%. What am I on? I'm on the 4 hour here. What can I say about this? There's holy man, that is quite the breakout. It looks like there was a beautiful, some kind of a pennant here. Yeah, flip that resistance into support. See, again, looking for those exact touch points, right? So 1 touch, 2 touch, at least 3 touches, right? I talked about that before. And then from there, breaking it and flipping it into support. Absolutely beautiful breakout there. Unfortunately, there's not much support on the way up. There's not much I can say about that. That if we do end up losing, end up losing this low, I mean, it could come straight back down. I know nothing about the project or anything like that. Let's start zooming in a little bit. So, as far as looking at structure here, since before we were talking about that, I like to use wicks and closes above wicks when looking for structure, but, I'd even say this whole candle here, basically, just to make it a smaller target, let's use this structure back here because we have our high, higher low. So we'd be looking at basically that would be the candle bodies you're looking at. If you don't include wicks and you're just going candle bodies, obviously we have this high, higher high, in which case our support, our higher low would actually be that red candle. Just because that's basically the last opposite moving candle before breaking this structure here. Oops. If it drops that level, yeah, it could absolutely nuke. But I'm personally not into trying to guess a top just because it's had a, just because it moved up parabolic doesn't mean that it's gonna stop there, right? There hasn't been a loss of a higher low yet. If I zoom in, I'll zoom right into the 5 minute and see if we can. Let's just really micro analyze things here. So that basically would have been the support that we were trying to hold down here. Yeah, that's kind of messy. I don't like that. Let me really... Okay, so here, high, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. I'm going to move my higher low to the lowest point between the high and the higher high. We did end up getting a close below that level. So that is technically a bearish break as far as I'm concerned. And actually, I'm very curious. That's very close to a Stuber fib. I don't think it's quite there, but it's very, very close. So yeah, you know, it might see a bit of a rejection here. I don't know. I still think it'll pull up a little bit higher into this pocket, but definitely something to consider that with that structure break. Yeah, like I said, you have a structure break followed by a bounce, right? So you sweep the lows, you have some sort of a relief rally, everybody gets mega bullish again, and then gets wrecked right before getting shut down. So I haven't followed this coin much at all, and since it was moving in such an unhealthy way on the 4 hour, I mean, I personally don't trade leverage with many altcoins anyways, because the volume actually scares the shit out of me, because I've been liquidated with my stop loss and profits before, and that scares me. But yeah, I see reason why you could see a rejection here. And like I said, if it does lose those lows on the larger time frame there, oh boy. And if we're going just by candle body closes, we did technically drop that level already, get that bounce. If we see that rejection, yeah, it could be a full retrace, right? That could be a juicy move to the downside. What else? What else? Let's just take a look at Bitcoin again. Oh, we're starting to struggle with that box there. I care more about the candle bodies. After this candle closes, I'll probably start wrapping up the stream here, just because we have been going for about an hour here, and I have things to do. Get ready for my river adventure here. You guys might not hear from me for a few days. I have no idea if I'll have signal or anything. I'm just canoeing down the river for a few days, so gonna be in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, I want to see how this candle closes. Since I've already closed half of my position now, and again, this just may have been a great early warning, right? The fact that these shifted directions to the downside might have been a beautiful call. Or you know what, we end up just blasting off, and whatever, I'm always happy to de-risk the situation a little bit. If I'm trading with high leverage on small time frames, I'm basically just looking for reasons to start getting out of my position. But let's see what happens. 45 seconds. If we close, right on top of this box or inside this box, and then see a green candle close next, I mean, that could be a beautiful indication that we are just finding this order block flipping into support kind of a thing, or holding as support rather. I personally hope it does hold, because yeah, I want my long to keep running. But yeah, if we end up dropping and I get stopped out at break even, I'm probably just going to end up re-entering throughout this fib pocket. It's kind of funny too, isn't it? Just to add a little bit of confluence for you guys here. Here, I want to remove some things. And I want to actually, so let's just go from where we ended up breaking above our high here. Where did this trend kind of change directions? That first opposite candle, let's just make a support box at this red box here, or at the red candle rather. And now notice so often, like, yeah, it makes sense that, on a structure level, we just blasted straight up. We never tested any of this area before, so it would absolutely make sense that we tested at some point and come back and test this structure level. But also notice this. I'm going to throw on this so I can add some Fibonacci's. Just from an eyeball, I can tell where that is. Taking the swing, yeah, look at that. The bottom of that support box there, just based on that structure, lines up perfectly with the 786. And that's something that you'll start to notice as well, is that so often where you see those price reversals like that, or where you see that structure change kind of a thing, so often it ends up lining up with the 786 or the 886. Not always. Sometimes, you know, the chart always shapes itself differently, but it's just something to watch for, just a little bit of added confluence, right? Oh, we never did close below that box, and well, now there's only 3 minutes left. I may as well stream for 3 more minutes, right? What's everyone else's plans for anyone doing anything exciting for the weekend? It's Friday tomorrow, isn't it? Or today, depending where you are. Oh, it's your birthday tomorrow. Well, happy birthday if I don't talk to you tomorrow. Chinese food sounds great. I should get Chinese food tomorrow. Family, nice, nice. All right, Leggies, 2 more minutes on this candle, and then I'm gonna wrap up. Working side job to buy more BT. Smart man. It's never a bad idea. Working a little side hustle to get a little more Bitcoin. Great idea. Just notice how hard the price is trying to respect this level, hey? We're wicking past, but we are still technically holding those bodies. Yeah, like I said, guys, this is just kind of a little life hack that I've been doing recently is I removed the wicks from the candle bodies. But then with the trend dynamic indicator, when I flip that back on, it has the wicks. So the best of both worlds. Check out BAT? I can check out BAT. What time frame? $4. I'm going to assume Binance is kind of the most accurate. 4-hour BAT. Let's see. What can I see? I'll tell you what I like right now already. I do like that there's the higher W. I love to see that. I love to see there's a buy signal. We're struggling to hold it right now, but still not bad. Core trend flipped into resistance, so a little bit of mixed signals. I do like those W's though. Sorry, I just like to. Oh, I can just take it off now. All right, what do we got here? Also, just look at this. This is just, looking at swing by swing. Here was our high. We set a higher high, higher low, pull a Fibonacci from there. Guess where we end up finding support? Right in that 786, 886 fib pocket. The one thing with that, obviously we have hit TP1 already based on that strategy alone. But it is nice to see that in an uptrend. I mean, that's exactly where I'd expect it to find support. So that is nice to see. Obviously, if we lose, basically, if we would end up losing this level, closing candle bodies below that level, that's where I'd consider it invalidated, and at that point we would probably get some sort of a bounce, but then rejected off this structure back here, which would also end up lining up as a Stuber fib. See, I accidentally draw them all the time now too. But that's something to watch for. But as it stands right now, this little bounce, I mean, this looks good. Since we've bottomed down here, we are in an obvious uptrend, right? This is not confirmed as a higher low. I mean, yes, we're assuming that's a healthy higher low, but it's not really confirmed until we'd set another higher high, in which case then I would start pulling fibs from there again. LTC, I'll check out LTC. Kind of the same thing with this, right? Just looking at where we ended up breaking out from. You can see that's right where our candle bodies ended up finding support here. Curious if a Stuber setup would have worked there as well, or if it would have been invalidated. Nope. See, that's why I have that 115 fib as far as an invalidation on a Stuber fib setup. If we were closing candle bodies down below the 886, for example, or down below this little green box, then I would have been a little bit hesitant. But the fact that it just wicked right back up and it never did cross the 115, yeah, that does look good. Find some sort of a trend line. Got very close to it, front run a little bit, but love to see it. If we're looking for chart patterns. Something like so. Like I said, I really like exact wick touch points. I mean, I know you could probably, you know, say something like that or whatever, but that's just not as accurate as I like to have them. What are the indicators saying with Litecoin? Buy signal, it was a lower buy signal, but it was very quick. You know, like after we got this big dump from this sell signal, we're starting to flip-flop a lot. So I really, even if this was to continue bearish, I just wouldn't be all too surprised to see something, some sort of a bounce before a rejection. Not saying we are going to get rejected, just saying even if we are going to be bearish, I wouldn't be too surprised to fill some of this, right? Because we had this big straight downward shot here, just straight capitulation, untested territory. So I think it makes a lot of sense we'd end up testing up higher. And that being said, I could pull a Fibonacci from top to bottom since we're looking for resistance, not support. And as well, it just lines up very well. Well, with a lot of structure back here, right? This whole area was traded in a lot back here. And that just so happens to be where the Stuber fibs would line up if we do bounce to there. Obviously, if you're looking at a 4 hour, don't be using, you know, 20 to 50 to 100x leverage like I'm doing. That's for smaller time frames where your invalidation levels are very tight. So, but I know you're smarter than that. I know you don't use excessive leverage and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to make that very clear in case anyone's getting the wrong ideas. If I say bullish here, that does not mean 100x long this. Stablecoin indicator on the 5 minute. Yeah, I'll check it out here. What was it called again? It is the crypto on-chain or crypto derivatives, right? On-chain? Oh, nice. Look at that. Those candle bodies are really trying to hold that support. See, isn't it crazy when you start seeing these structure levels, how well they are respected? Like, even if we drop this, you can just tell it's obviously a level of interest. Crazy. Invert the chart. Invert the chart or invert the indicator? the indicator and turn the divergences on. Invert scale, just like that. Oh yeah, look at that beautiful call there. And this beautiful call back here. Yeah, okay, you're on to something. You're on to something. Hidden indicator. Yeah, even that. There's that little fake out, but a nice little run there. Hidden divergence. Beautiful. Hidden bearish. Bit of a false call there, but the structure was still bullish. We still had this higher low back here. I can eyeball from there. The divergence across a W. With a reversal warning W, you mean? Oh, just like a W in the shape. I gotcha. Like in that case, would you be talking something like this? Or I guess that would technically be the M, hey? So you'd have an M, regular divergence with the structure. Okay, yeah, I see what you're seeing. There's your W with your regular divergence. Yeah, okay, I see what you're getting at. Same with right here, a bit of an M, hidden divergence right there, calling the top. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. You know what? I might have to start using this a little more. I think you're on to something. Man, the price is really struggling at this box here. Would really like some sort of a divergence to show up here. Use the Scalp Master. I can bring that up here. Get rid of all my drawings. All right, let's hop into this. Sensitivity 5.75, you say? And trend baseline, where's that? Tick box bottom section settings. Oh, here we go. Okay, so that just helps you with the trend. Okay. So basically, as soon as you're below this trend and sell signal, yeah, even though it was, that would have been what, down here, still a beautiful call, would have caught all this. Yeah, I haven't played around with the Scalp Master too much yet, but it looks interesting. I have used it a little bit, just again, when I use indicators, I really like to come up with with setups, with strategies. That's the word. Ha, nailed it. Yeah, I really like to come up with strategies on my own. So, but that's just where you have to start putting things together with indicators, right? One signal on its own is never going to be a perfect trade, right? Turn on backtest data. Where is backtest data? Oh, here we go. Let's go bottom left. Bottom left sounds good. Win rate 80%, average trade 0.2%. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, like I said, I haven't played around with this too much. Net profit 2%, add a little bit of leverage to that. Boom, beautiful. You think the market maker plan is to push us into that order block again, trap like 500 BTC longs there, and then dump again. Yeah, you're talking push us. Let me get this up. Yeah, kind of testing back up to these levels. Oops. Ha. Yeah, to see the sell orders up here end up pushing us back down to these levels, you're saying? I think we'll see some sort of a reaction at these levels if we start dumping again. I think everyone will get very bearish again just because people are going to have PTSD from the price action this morning. But like I said, since we actually broke this level, I would expect some sort of a reaction at these fibs here if we end up going down there. Doesn't have to happen. You know, we drop my 115 fib. I'm going to lose a lot of confidence in that. Or if we just end up closing candle bodies below this structure down here. But yeah, guys, as it stands right now, we're still holding this box. The market's still trying to hold support here. So yeah, it just goes to show you how important these very small levels can be. And specifically the candle bodies, right? So many people, you know, if they see something like this and they want to enter a long, you know, laddering in like that, so many people would have their stop loss right below that support level. But I mean, we turn wicks back on and that easily could have grabbed some of that liquidity, right? So just something to be aware of there. But yeah, so far so good. Still technically holding. So as long as we can hold this box, then I'm going to be holding on to the rest of my long position. I'll probably end up scaling a little bit more out of it as I go through the night here, but we're going to have to see how the chart plays out. Other than that, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you found this stream useful. For those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little bit later, if you're interested in some of my favorite indicators, plus access to the VIP Discord with live streams such as these put on by not only myself, but also a handful of other very knowledgeable traders in the group, there's a discount link down below. I'm personally doing most of my trading on BingX, so if you need a place to get your degen on, I have a link for that as well. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.